May I come in, ma'am?
Come in, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Please sit down.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Name is Chair.
Yes, sir.
Every time you have to first address Chair.
Sorry, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
You are Harsh Parashar,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Right. Okay. Don't mind my standing. I'm standing here because I've been sitting all the time.
Absolutely not, ma'am.
You are from Bihar.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So, how far do you think Bihar has grown? There was a point at which Bihar was considered the most backward state. Even now, it is still at the bottom of the league. Why is that? What is the cause for this backwardness? Considering that Bihar was the center of a flourishing empire at one point. Travelers from China and others were coming to Bihar. It was a center of knowledge. From that height, and it also produced some of the best civil servants that India has had.
Yes, ma'am.
L.K. Jha, many others like that. So why has this descent into almost wilderness? What is the cause?
Ma'am, one reason is the history itself. Because Bihar was so well advanced at a certain stage, it led to a very rapid growth in population. Bihar presently has the highest population density across India at around 1100, while for India it is only 300, 400. So this high population density has resulted in a lack of resources. The resource crunch even exaggerated after Jharkhand was separated in 2000. Most of the industries that were established after post-independence by Anugrah Babu and Shri Babu, most of them cut off to be in Jharkhand. Other historical factors are there as well. Like Bihar was the pioneer of social justice movement in India. In 1978, before it was even reservation was made for socially and educationally backward classes in the rest of India in 1992, it was done in 1978 in Bihar. Because of this, there was a rise in identity politics, because of which there was a infighting for the limited resources that we had. So these two factors. Besides, there are many numerous other factors as well. Like Bihar it's not a coastal state. It only shares its boundary with Nepal, with which the transportation is not that well. It is 76%.
You missed out one important point.
Ma'am, there is one important point that I can think of. I think it is brain drain as well. But are you referring to some other point?
What about governance?
Yes, ma'am.
It does not have good governance. It has not had good leaders capable of leading the state. There have been, like Lalu siphoned off money. So it has not had good leaders who can take it forward into. That's an important point. Governance has been very weak.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And governance is quite important. But in my opinion, in last 15 years, we have made a lot of progress on governance. On law and order situation, Bihar presently stands 23rd in per capita crime. So law and order situation and governance in general has improved, but not to the extent because of the historical lagging factors that
to overcome those things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What do you understand by digital currency? Digital currency. Can you tell me? I am totally ignorant.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, digital currencies, it can be government digital currency or private digital currency. Like the money that we have in Paytm wallet, it is also a form of digital currency. There are different types of digital currency as well, like cryptocurrency is a digital currency, but the one that has been put out by central bank, RBI as CBDC, central bank digital currency, it will not be a cryptocurrency. So digital currency is any money that exists in our electronic wallets in mobile phones and not as physical cash.
Is it viable? Considering, can it become a universal phenomena? Considering how there is such a big digital divide
Yes, ma'am.
in India. So do you think digital currency will succeed? Will it become popular universally?
Ma'am, India has the second maximum fintech adoption index, ranking in fintech adoption index. So India already has a very good performance when it comes to acceptance of such new things. But as you rightly pointed out, digital divide is a big thing because 56% of people in India do not have access to internet. Even though tele density is quite high, but still it will not suffice the problem. Now, the problem I see in success of CBDC is earlier acceptance of Paytm was not a legal tender. The CBDC will probably be a legal tender, which means it will be compulsory for somebody to have it, like my Sabzi Wala or somebody else. This will become a problem because they need not necessarily have a mobile phone and a Jan Dhan bank account to back it up with.
All right, one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Then, what are the symptoms of climate change? I mean, when you say we talk about climate change, but what are the 1, 2, 3, 4 things you can point to saying this is what indicates climate change?
Ma'am, one is global warming, rise in temperature.
Can you give me an example of global warming? We say global warming, but can you give me an example, actually, concrete example?
Yes, ma'am. Over last 120 years, for which there is data in India, the temperature has risen by about 0.75 degrees Celsius.
Can you give me a recent example which shows that, yes, there is a problem there?
Yes, ma'am. I'll give the example from Europe, where in Germany, in two parts of Europe, there are two extreme phenomena. So second is rise in extreme phenomena. In Germany, there is rainstorm and massive flooding, whereas in Italy, there are wildfires that are going on. So
also Canada and West,
yes, ma'am, wildfires there as well.
They have witnessed temperatures never before experienced. All right, temperature at again 2, 3, 4. That's all.
Yes,
what is the other?
Second, I'll give for sea level rise. I'll give the evidence for this from India itself. On Bay of Bengal, we have seen a rise in sea level over last 15 years to the extent of 15 centimeter in Sagar Islands.
Okay, 3.
Ma'am, 3 will be deglaciation. I'll give the evidence of what happened in Russia. In the Siberia region, they had plants for nickel excavation, and the machines collapsed because the ground permafrost beneath that melted off.
Okay, 4.
Ma'am, 4 again I'll give as rise in extreme events. Extreme events is either very cold or very hot, like what happened in USA few years back. The Arctic winds came there and it was freezing cold, below 0 degrees in normal areas.
Yeah, there's flooding.
Yes, ma'am. All of these.
Sometimes flooding, sometimes drought, sometimes, so it's totally. Mr. Bhattacharya.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Parashar, you have chosen or given first option as Indian Foreign Service.
Yes, sir.
That is what the DAP says. Now, can you tell us about India's policy vis-a-vis the neighbors, immediate neighbors? What do you think that? Do you think that this is neighbor first or look east policy that has really brought the dividend which India wants from the neighbors? Because as you say that India does not have much cordial relation with many of the neighbors, in spite of spending huge amount of resources on them. So what do you think that the India should, what should be, suppose you are the foreign secretary tomorrow, you become a foreign secretary. what will be your policy you suggest to government to what are the policy India has vis-a-vis the neighbor, immediate neighbor, that are they correct, or you want some kind of a shift in that policy, immediate neighbor policy. Apart from Pakistan, Pakistan is a different philosophy.
Yes, sir. Sir, India has followed first Gujarat doctrine, where we focused on non-reciprocation of the benefits that we give them. Then we came to neighborhood first policy, where our emphasis was again on bringing on the South Asia neighborhood. The problem here is because of the China factor, India's efforts to gain the eminence that it deserves because of its size, economy, and its very liberal policies, it has not achieved those. I'll give the examples of Nepal and Sri Lanka, who repeatedly have depended upon China to gain the benefits that should otherwise they should be reciprocating towards India. Now, to overcome these situations, and I'll give another example of Bhutan, where giving our resources, Bhutan is the only country which has not established cordial relations with the China because of its closeness with India. To overcome these situations, I feel we have good soft diplomacy. We have followed very good soft diplomacy with these countries. But there is a need to back this up with hard diplomacy, economic resources, because the many projects that were going on, they either did not take off or took a lot of time, like the West Container Terminal in Sri Lanka. It was supposed to happen with Japan, but eventually it was scraped off because of the protests. So one is to follow this up with hard diplomacy, and second is to focus on the areas where it is not only relevant to give benefits, but to get benefits out of it as well. So like debt trap diplomacy that China is following, we should not focus on non-reciprocation, but getting something in return as well. So increasing the interest rate that we charge or things like these.
Do you think the Chinese, India-China, Indo-Sino relation, is it on right path? Because China is now disengaging in one other area, leaving. So that is the incremental kind of betterment of relation. Will it really help India in the long run, or they should have a stand? They should take a stand vis-a-vis Tibet, vis-a-vis the areas of friction, and but India is not in a position to do that. What really stops India from going all out rather than incremental betterment and all that? India should go down, but there is a problem. There is a problem which India cannot go all out with China. But
yes,
China, what is the problem which India faces which prevents that from taking a bold stand with China?
Sir, India has been very, very balanced in its approach towards China vis-a-vis the West. We are part of SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, as well as Quad. We were part of RIC, Russia, India, China, as well as JAI, Japan, America, and India. So we have been very cordial on these
fronts. Quad?
Yes, sir.
QUAD, Quad. There is an organization called Quad also.
Yes, sir, Quad.
Can it help in this case? I mean,
sir, Quad is seen by China as being anti-China and trying to contain its influence in Indo-Pacific.
So do you think it will be a negative kind of a factor in betterment of the? Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, it might be negative. It is seen presently as negative by China. But I think it is very important that we continue our engagement with Quad, because we need to balance the influence of China in Indo-Pacific, where it has been.
But something prevents India from going all out. What is the difference between India and China? What is the difference in the international, the way the foreign powers view both these countries? What is the main thing they see when they see India and China?
So China has already proven its ability to take on USA in the trade war, but India is not. The economy and military wise, we are not that strong.
What is the vis-a-vis the parity aspect of India, China in terms of economy and trade and global trade and defense? What is the parity? What is the percent? India is X and China is Y. So what is X versus Y? What is the difference?
Sir, I'll give this in terms of the trade relations that we have. China presently accounts for 13% of global trade, whereas India accounts only for 2%. So in this regard, China has integrated itself much better into the global value chains, whereas India has to a certain
So
extent.
what should India do to really bridge that gap? There is a huge gap in every way. You think of China and India, everywhere there is a huge gap. So India cannot take a bold stand.
Yes, sir.
But then what should at least we aim for, we try to bridge the gap? Is someone here as a foreign secretary, you advise the government?
So I will say first we need to become Atmanirbhar. Because there are many key areas where we are still dependent upon China for, like in electronics, 60% of our electronics are coming from China. In pharmaceutical sector.
Okay, electronics then.
Pharmaceutical sector.
Okay, then next.
Then these essential household items, like even the broom that we use,
okay, everything, right from a doll to everything we are importing.
Even toys, yes sir.
Everything. Then, and finally, anyway, I mean, is there anything else you want to say? Because everything we are lagging behind, we are just importing. And export is. So, okay, now final question to you. I will come back to India. You are from Bihar. Bihar and the erstwhile Jharkhand, which is part of Bihar, they are beset by a very decades old left-wing extremism, LWE. Now, how many districts of Bihar are still considered as LWE affected districts? And what, as some of you are now, you don't go to foreign service, you are an IAS officer here, still in this in the state. How will you advise the government to decrease? First of all, how many districts are still considered as affected? There is a central data, they say affected. And what will you do? Advise the government to contain, tackle this. This is a very serious problem in the Indian government also thinks. It's the most internal security threat, the biggest in India. So what will you do as a policy, as an advisor to CM?
So for the first part, the number of districts, I'm not aware of the exact number, but I know some districts like Munger and Rohtas, they are affected by left-wing extremism, and those districts which border on Nepal, because of the influence of Maoism in Nepal, those areas are also affected. But the situation of left-wing extremism is not as bad in Bihar as it in some other states like Jharkhand.
So you think that nothing should be done to tackle? So what will you advise the government? How will you tackle?
Sir, left-wing extremism has arisen because of these issues of alienation with Jal, Jungle and Jameen. And if economic development is brought in these areas, it will limit the base.
That is a theory everybody knows. People are more prosperous, they will forget. But how will you do that? What is the way you do it? Because they will not allow the roads to be constructed. They will destroy everything.
Yes, sir.
So people don't go in. The road is first thing they will attack. How will you do that?
Sir,
you are there in the districts. You are put there. First step and third, what will you do?
Yes, sir. So first step will be to ensure that our police forces are able to tackle them. And for this, a step has already been taken called Bihar Special Police Forces Act. This has been passed, and this will allow modernization of our police forces in those areas which are affected by
modernization of police. Then next.
Second.
That's this year.
Second will be to rehabilitate those people who have been taken out of left-wing extremism. Third will be to provide educational and economic opportunities to people who are on the ground. And fourth will be to integrate those people into the mainstream who have already been brought.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Your surname is Parashar.
Was he a sage? Sage Parashar?
Yes, sir.
What do you know about him?
Sir, Sage Parashar was the father of Ved Vyas. And he was the grandson of Vashisht, who was one of the Saptarishi in the first Manvantar. He is also credited to have written parts of Vishnu Puran.
Okay. You are BTech in Electronics and Electrical Communication Engineering.
Yes, sir.
When are we going to launch 5G?
Sir, The two major telecom companies of India, Jio and Airtel, both of them have said that they will do it in this decade.
In this decade?
Yes, sir. By the end of 20.
Are we not going to launch in 2022?
Sorry, sir, I was not aware of such plans.
Anyway, which are the countries where it is already in operation?
Sir, China is first country where it has already started.
Which else?
USA. In European EU countries, it has been launched by Ericsson and Nokia.
What is the difference between fiscal deficit and revenue deficit?
Sir, fiscal deficit is a sum of revenue deficit and capital deficit. Revenue deficit is the difference between revenue expenditure and the
Revenue receipt.
Revenue receipts. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you might be very well aware of G7 summit.
Yes, sir.
So President Biden proposed B3W initiative. What
Yes,
is
sir.
that?
Sir, B3 stands for Build Back Better World. And it has been proposed as a coalition of countries with similar ideology, that is democracy, to counter the infrastructure projects that have been launched by BRI. So it is a opposition to the BRI, which has engulfed European countries as well as many other countries.
We will be benefited with this initiative or not? B3W?
Sir, I believe that we will be greatly benefited because India is not a part of BRI, as it should not be. And B3W will lead to an influx of economic funds, which India greatly needs. Our infrastructure needs are many. We presently need around $200 billion per year to become a $5 trillion economy. And we presently managed to only make around $100 billion investment. So there is a huge infrastructure fund demand.
Okay, in G7 meet, there were some countries which are which are not actually the countries of G7, but they were invited as a special invitee. So which were those countries? Three countries were invited. Which were those?
Sir, I do not know the names. I know that
India, South Korea, Australia.
Thank you, sir.
Are you aware?
Sir, I remember reading this, but I cannot.
Are you sure about India?
Sir, India was not. That's what I was going to say. That
India is not a member as a special invitee. Whether India was invited, and if at all India was invited, then what India said?
Sir, India.
Main points raised by our country. Anyway, our Honorable Prime Minister was there.
Virtually.
He was invited. And which points were raised by our Honorable Prime Minister?
Sir, I cannot recall them at the moment.
Was it related with IPR issues?
Sir, thank you, sir, for the hint. Sir, it was regarding South Africa and India have put forward a demand that
IPR... initially it was there. India has raised this point in several fora. And it was started by India and South Africa, as you have said. So in this, are you aware? In G7 summit, what did he say?
Sir, I cannot recall.
No.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Parashar,
Yes, sir.
You are one of those rare candidates who are married.
Yes, sir.
Normally, people come here when they are still unmarried.
Yes,
very young also.
Yes, sir.
Coming from Bihar, don't you think this is a big loss for you? Had you been selected in IAS, you have got very good dowry.
Sir, even if I was selected, I would not have taken dowry, as I did not take it now.
No, Bihar, it is very prevalent. Why?
Sir, just because there is a trend of taking dowry does not mean that we have to go with trend. Also, taking dowry is also illegal. And in my case, it was love. It was love marriage. So
perfectly all right. But do you think that the gifts which come during marriage, they are part of the dowry?
Sir, it is a euphemism that we are giving gifts to our daughter rather than an explicit demand by the groom side. But the official definition of dowry is not very clear on this.
Clear about it. Okay, tell me, Bihar is always in news for all bad reasons. If you are to change only any one thing in the history of Bihar, what would you like to change?
So in the history of Bihar,
Any one event, any one person's role, any one thing.
So the one event that I will select to not be done will be the change implemented by Jan Nayak Karpuri Thakur in 1978, which was to give reservation for socially and educationally backward classes. What happened was because Bihar was a pioneer in the social justice movement, and that was implemented top down by the politics. Social justice movement is all right when it is done from bottom up. Like even in Tamil Nadu and Kerala we had temple entry movements, and Periyar led the social justice movement. When it comes from top down, it leads to a clash between the socially and educationally backward classes and the upper castes. This is one reason why the Bahubali culture developed in 1980s in Bihar, which is primarily responsible for the degrading law and order situation and huge brain drain that happened. So it would probably have alleviated these things to a certain extent.
If you are asked to formulate a policy for drones in India, what are the points that you will keep into mind? What will be your recommendations?
Sir, can you repeat the question?
Drones. A
Drones.
Policy on drone. If you are asked to frame a policy on drones in India, what will be the points that you will keep in mind in making this policy? Just give me bulleted points.
Sir, we already have a RPES, so I'll add modifications in that. One is the person who's handling the drone. He should have a registration card which should be verified by the police before the card is given to him, just like we do in passports. Second will be to handle it at the source itself. All the drones which are being sold, before they are being sold, the person who's buying them, all the drone IDs should be linked with some sort of Aadhaar or other social ID of the person who's buying it. So drones in educational areas, like in IITs, wherever the researches are being done, they should be under a regulatory sandbox. They should be allowed to do whatever researches they want to do for micro sizes drones.
Chalo.
Yes, that's all. Thank you, sir.
Foreign Service.
Yes, sir.
Can you name some last 3 foreign secretaries?
Yes, sir. Presently, Mr. Harshvardhan Shringla is the Foreign Secretary.
Good. Before that? Mr. Gokhale.
Mr. Vijay Gokhale. Yes, sir.
Before that?
Sir, I know Mr. S. Jaishankar was, but I don't.
Everybody knows S. Jaishankar. You can replace him in future. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can we come to the sociology?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, your sociology. When did you got married?
Sir, 2019.
Oh, good. So she's from which part of India?
Sir, she's from Bihar only, but she was raised in Rajasthan.
So what was the consideration of caste?
Sir, she is a Maithil Brahmin and I am a Rajput.
The same, Savarn. Had it been?
Sir, even in our case, there were a number of
She was your class fellow in IIT?
No, sir.
Okay. So now what the percentage, Bihar in Muslim percentages?
Sir, I do not know the exact number.
Some idea. Some districts are tossing even 50%. And they are also clubbed. These are the.
Sir, the national average is around 13%. So
13?
National average is 13%.
Oh, national average is.
But in Bihar, it is slightly higher. But
How much tentatively? Because it's a very important. Bihar caste and religion is so dominant that everything is irrelevant.
So maybe 20%,
But
around
it's
20%.
touching around 30%. And in some districts, there are, can you tell me some districts where it is already touching 50?
Sir, I will not be able to.
in your own district.
Oh,
And,
sir, I'll find it out. I
and for
do not
Katihar
have the-
sociology, so you may not be aware.
Yes, sir.
Leave it, and then we can leave it.
Are you likely to go for love jihad anytime? I mean, you meaning the state.
Ma'am, I do not believe that Bihar will opt for a love jihad bill. I do not believe that Bihar will opt for a love jihad bill.
They will not.
Ma'am, this is my hope and expectation that it will not.
Why is that?
Ma'am, although love jihad bill does not have anything wrong with it, one problem I see with it is it makes it very difficult for people who are genuinely trying to change their religions. It does not have any problems in such, because even Supreme Court and High Courts have previously said that freedom of conscience does not mean freedom to convert, and especially sham conversions only for the sake of marriage should not be done. But in Bihar's case, because of the higher Muslim percentage population and the higher educationally backward classes situation, they usually need these provisions to change their religion, like it was done in Hathras to Buddhism or Jainism, where the caste segmentation is not that hard. So it will allow them as kind of social mobility in terms of easier conversions.
Again, one more basic question. I don't know how far it is correct. 80% Hindu girls marry, and in Muslims only 20%. What's the reason for that?
Sir, my knowledge of this fact was quite
Anyway,
different.
Taking into account these tentative figures, why 80% girls are marrying Muslim boys, and from Hindu community only 20% girls. What may be the reason for that?
Sir, if I can ask a question on this. 80% of Hindu girls are marrying in Muslim
Yeah.
men, and 20% Muslim women are marrying
Hindu.
Sir, this could something.
What may be the reason for that?
It's a very interesting question.
No, you're a student of sociology. Just if quick answer you can out, otherwise is my opinion I will give.
Sir, it could probably have to do with the socio-economic difference between the two religions. Muslims
Women's status.
in the women's status.
Women's status. Because Muslim women hardly allowed to reach to university, and Hindu girls are much more. So
Yes, sir.
this is some complex issues. Until unless we address these things, the rest of the things
sir.
will not be. Just
Thank you, sir.
you are reading in inspirational Hindi poetry.
Yes, sir.
Just tell me. I am also fond of.
So should I recite one?
No, not a side. You tell me first that this is the writer and this is the line I like.
Sir, I'll Maithili Sharan Gupta ji, nar ho na nirash karo man ko.
But okay, inspirational. Good.
Sir, I'll pick up a वृक्ष हो भले बड़े हो घने हो बड़े, Agnipath by Bachchan Sahab.
Okay. Oh.
Should I pick out the line?
No.
Achha.
Because that's not first time, but
Sir, by Fahmida Riaz, this is तुम अपनी करनी कर गुजरो जो होगा देखा जाएगा.
I imagine Dinkar, why you are forgetting?
Yes, sir.
Ramdhari Singh Dinkar.
Yes, sir. From
Plenty. Rasmi Rathi to Jayadratwa to the Kaling, the 62 war or Singhasan Khali Karo ki Janta aati hai. Anyway.
Sir, from Dinkar Sahab, I'll pick this one. I like especially Veer.
Dinkar is
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
the most relevant because you are from Bihar.
Yes, sir.
But then you tell me where from Dinkar belong to?
Sir, he was from Simaria in Araria.
Yeah. Thank you.
Who were the writers from your own district? Hindi writers?
From my own district. Sir, Fanishwar Nath Renuji was
Okay.
from very close.
Next.
And I'm from my grandparents' area is Saharsa, and close was
Okay,
Nagarjun.
you gave address of Katihar.
Yes, sir.
So Renuji. Then
Sir, there are some local good ones as well.
you read about Baba Nagarjun,
Nagarjun. Yes, sir.
Lakshmikant, Lakshmi Narayan Sudhanshu, Buddhinath Jha Kairav. ठीक है. There are many writers. And that has been a very fertile area for writers.
Yes, sir. There is Bhola Shankar Pranay as well. So he's from Katihar only, but he's a regional, more popular.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So the interview is over.
Thank you, ma'am.
Would you like to question any of the panelists for guidance or any questions, clarifications?
Ma'am, I feel there were a number of areas where I can, but I need to read up on those things as well. There were very, very good questions that I need to follow up on information on. Ma'am, but no specific questions as of
No
now.
specific question. Good. Okay, and you yourself have said that you need to read up, so we don't need to emphasize that. I think you are a very good candidate and you should do very well. You present well, you talk well, most of the things that you were able to answer. So I think you have no worry about the final. So
Thank you, ma'am.
as far as I know, things will go well. So I don't really have any much to offer, but maybe they would like to add something.
Just on behalf,
Yes, sir.
for data.
Demographics. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Because sociology and sociology of Bihar may be. Saharsa, Jagjivan Ram was used to.
Babu Jagjivan Ram. Yes, sir.
So those who were sitting there, so many, so these can be some basic.
Thank you, sir.
You are a point, you are already finished. I mean, what we are on the day or ready for that day. I don't think you should not try to change yourself too much. Little updating Saharsa, yes, Saharsa. The Kosi flood disaster in Saharsa some time ago.
Yes, sir. That in 2008 in the Kushab
2008,
barrage break. Yes, sir.
because that really devastated Saharsa. So that may suddenly somebody may ask you. So anyway, you will be knowing that.
Yes, sir.
All
I'm prepared
that
on that.
Yeah, that is only Nepal, that Kosi flows from Nepal and all. So that is one or two local incidents, but you are quite pleasant and absolutely there. You are in that zone. I mean, you should make very. You should hear some good story about you. I mean, news about you. You should make it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Just have one small point.
Yes, sir.
Avoid such type of remarks you have rightly pointed out.
I guess that.
ऐसा नहीं कहना है किसी बोर्ड मेंबर को, चेयरपर्सन को.
Yeah, that I think.
अवॉइड करेंगे सर.
Sir, but अगर rightly
नहीं,
point
वो
out.
दूसरे को कमेंट करने की जरूरत नहीं है कि आपने सही कहा कि नहीं कहा. जरूरत नहीं है.
Sir, I was only trying to use that in substantiating my own point. Should I avoid this?
Absolutely. You should avoid.
I'll keep this in mind.
You are not commenting on him. He can comment on you. You are in a formal. It's a formal interview.
For rational society, it is all right.
But this is the Naukarsahi.
Yes,
No equality.
We are giving you, because all of us have been part of that, so we are giving you a suggestion. Okay. So certain things, certain words are to be avoided for your betterment.
Yes, sir.
I will give two corrections. One is what honorable member said. Jagjivan Ram was from Sasaram, not Saharsa. Okay. Second thing, you read about Vidyapati, read about contribution of the Maharaja Darbhanga in the development of many progressive steps all around India, particularly Calcutta, because you have given a reference of Calcutta.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Even in Patna University, Darbhanga University, the first private rail was done at Darbhanga.
So can I note these things?
No, आप wiki पे जाओगे सब मिल जाएगा आपको.
हाँ sir, I just note things I need to look upon.
Then the role of Jivika sisters, Jivika Didi का काम क्या हो रहा है पूर्णिया में? There has been one of the internationally acclaimed project which is going on through and which was started with Gates Foundation by Nitish Kumar ji. ठीक है ना, तो थोड़ा उनका रोल देख लीजिए. Cash crops in North Bihar, particularly makhana, nibu, kela, lychee, mango, okay, all these things. And then this Rajendra Pusa में जो agriculture university is Rajendra Agriculture University, which is now shifted to
Delhi. Yes, sir.
Since you have opted for foreign service, you should be well up on our foreign policy, particularly towards our neighbors.
Yes, sir, and ma'am, and G7 as well. I need to read up more on G7.
That's all.
That foreign policy as a neighbor, vis-a-vis sub-Saharan Africa, we didn't have time to ask you African policy.
Yes, sir. Sir, if I can ask, can you repeat those names of literatures?
Nagarjun,
Yes, Nagarjun, I have prepared.
Renuji, Parishuranath Renu,
Yes, sir.
then Vidyapati. He was national. Lakshmi Narayan Sudhanshu was also the first chairman of Bihar Vidhan Sabha, and he was also a very good prolific writer. आप Wikipedia पे जाओगे, you will find all these.
Yes, sir. That's where I do most of my
You
research.
should be aware of. You don't know what kind of questions will come from where.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all the very best.
All the way
Yes,
to
sir.
Kavna.
Very
We
good.
should,
Thank you, ma'am.
we should hear good stories about you. You are medic. You will make
Yes,
it,
sir.
no doubt.
And don't take unnecessary mocks.